I've spent well over a dozen years traveling all around the world to all parts of the world. Most of the time was spent as someone who was permanently outside the United States, living a nomadic lifestyle in countries that most people wouldn't even consider. And today I'm going to break down every single time that I've been a victim of crime to show you just how safe living overseas can be. Obviously, anytime we talk about crime, it's anecdotal, right? Was I a victim of crime? Was I not? I know clients who on multiple occasions went to Barcelona, had expensive watches taken right off their wrists by these gangs that kind of encircle you when they see a fancy watch. And so when I was in Barcelona recently, I made sure to leave my watch in the safe at the hotel. And so prevention obviously is worth more than cure. And so this is anecdotal. I've spent a lot of years living in places like Colombia. We do business like our Nomad Capitalist Live in Mexico, places that people think, oh, that's unsafe. I go to countries that people are like, oh, that's a third world country. Of course, it's terrible. Like, what are you doing? I've walked around at all hours of the day. I've really had very few problems. And maybe you've had very few problems as well. But here's what we know. The United States is actually in about the top third of the most dangerous countries in the world. Other Western countries don't necessarily fare that much better. And so if you live in the country that I'm from, 309 mass shootings in the first 6 months of 2022. Hopefully it didn't affect you or anyone that you know, but it doesn't mean that it couldn't. And I can tell you that a lot of the issues that you see with crime in your country simply don't exist overseas. That's what I want to talk about today. If it's your first time here, my name is Andrew Henderson. I'm the founder of Nomad Capitalist. We're a boutique consultancy that helps 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors legally reduce your taxes, diversify and protect your assets, get multiple citizenships, and just make sure you're in control of your life and your business by using competitive countries to arbitrage against your uncompetitive country. We also host the aforementioned biggest and best offshore conference called Nomad Capitalist Live, and that's open to absolutely everybody. So, in the United States, spent about 26, 27 years living in the United States, had 2 different occasions where a laptop was stolen from the seat of my car. Yes, I did, I learned slowly on that one. Had like a rock thrown at my leg, had a car window right in front of the police when I was walking home from university, the 1 year that I pretended to go. And when I refused to take part in freshman choir Friday fight to the death, I got the wind knocked out of me there. So that's my criminal activity in the United States. Not so terrible. What is my activity overseas? I think the first thing to be aware of when you're moving overseas and you want to stay safe is selection of places. Again, I look at a place like Barcelona, maybe not as big of a risk for like physical violence, like violent crime, but for everyday, property theft, like the kind of stuff that maybe puts you on edge. I think that's actually a lot worse than almost any of the places that I live. Latin America, certainly, when you look at the crime statistics, it is statistically worse. I like to focus on statistics. You can't argue with that. I think there's a way to live the same way that you live in, Naperville, Illinois, where unfortunately there was an incident recently, but generally a safe place. And it shows that even places that you think are safe in the U.S. aren't necessarily safe. But why don't you live in a bad neighborhood in Chicago? Well, because you live in a suburb that you thought was safe, and so you can do that in other countries as well. But when I look at places that we talk about, look at parts of Eastern Europe, look at the Gulf, look at parts of Southeast Asia, statistically much safer than many Western countries for both property crime and for violent crime. In some of those Eastern European countries, the criminals have gone elsewhere, or they've just been locked up in some kind of purge when the country, transitioned from something else. But anyway, the biggest thing that happened to me was almost a decade ago at this point, probably 8 or 9 years ago. I was in Managua, Nicaragua, and I don't recommend any of Central America's capital cities. I was there because I was meeting with folks, legal people and just stuff for Nomad Capitalists. There's no reason really to go to Managua. If you go to Nicaragua, you either go up to the surfing in Leon, Chinandega, or you go down to the surfing in San Juan del Sur. Maybe you go to Granada, the colonial town. You're not in the capital city, nor are you in the capital city of Costa Rica or really anywhere else, other than Panama City, Mexico City, if you count that. But I'm walking around. I really just wanted to kind of see kind of the whole vibe. And so you'll see me walking. I just don't like hassling with when there's not a taxi. I'm like, cool, I'll walk. It's a kilometer. And it's a Sunday night. I just come back from somewhere else in Nicaragua and got dropped off. And it's like, okay, I'm just gonna walk back to this hotel I'm staying at. And I'm almost back at my hotel, and I duck into a convenience store, and I just get a few things. And it's kind of this whole encapsulated area, parking lot, and then the store. And so I'm coming out of the parking lot. I turn right out. There's a big wall that encloses the parking lot. I turn out, see a motorcycle, just out of the corner of my eye, a motorcycle's coming up, two guys in the motorcycle, one guy gets off. Before I realize it, there's a guy who's got a gun in my face. And I remember, you never know how he'll react to these things. I had just gotten a beautiful Xenia wallet, and it had a thing where it had like, you could open it for cash. Like now all these wallets, they're all closed on both sides. And I don't think it was quite as bold as I'm making it sound, but there was a thing where the guy's like, wallet, like give me the wallet. And I'm thinking to myself, and I'm kind of like, nah, listen, you don't want this wallet. Look at how you can open it up, you can put the cash in, you got to carry cash in this part of the world, man. You should know, you're a criminal, the new wallet, if you take this wallet, I got to go back to Xenia, I got to get a new wallet, it's going to be sewn and both, you have to jam the cash in the top, it's going to be spilling out, it's much less elegant. You don't want the wallet. And the guy's just standing there fumbling for a while. He finally just reaches into my other pocket, takes my phone, and runs off. And obviously the smartest thing to do to be arguing with the guy over a wallet. But I'm telling you this, I had that wallet for years, and it was so convenient because you have to carry cash, right? I'm not in the United States anymore. It's not just, you're not just running a debit card for 93 cents. Now you can. But back then, you really want to have cash. And so that was the scariest thing that ever happened to me. And obviously, I didn't really bother reporting that to anybody. Who cares what's going to happen? What are they going to do? By the way, what are they going to do in the U.S. where now, the laptop smash and grabs that I had, I think in many parts of the U.S. Now, it's just like go in line, fill out a form, get a PDF for your insurance company, leave us alone. What are we, the police? And so I don't know that it's really any worse there. Obviously, the other issue is the security guards in different buildings, they're only concerned about the building. They're not going to come and help you out. So that was an issue, and I learned no capital cities in Central America other than Mexico and Panama, which are better. The rest of them are just mostly in terrible shape. And 5:30, it was dusk, so it wasn't even super dark, and just ran back to the hotel, and that was it for Managua. I think other things that have happened is I was in Belgrade once. I have a property in Belgrade now, but I had an apartment at one point that I was renting for a couple of months. And there were some issues apparently in that year with okay and some person let this guy into the building, and then he got up, and I had a door that kind of jiggled just a little bit. It wasn't too bad, but okay, you could probably get into this door. Now, whenever I renovate a place, I'm I want a door of steel. I want something that's bomb-proof. And so no one's getting through this door, but this door was a door you could get through. And so apparently in the news, they were covering all these little robberies, and there were some guys who were caught because they took an Apple MacBook, or because they took an iPad or someone's phone or something, and then they were tracked. And so apparently the robbers said, hey, don't take any tech stuff. And so they basically, I won't say ripped everything apart, but it was hard to tell, but you could tell, a little bit, when I'm well, the door seems a little off, and what's going on? And so basically the guy rummaged through all my stuff and took off with, I think, 80 Qatari Rial, which is kind of amusing, $25 or something, and left the computer, left the phone, literally left everything else, took 80 Qatari Rial and ran off. Didn't have any other cash. I guess the other cash was with me or somewhere else. But so that happened. I remember in Malaysia, probably, shortly after my gun in face incident, I was with a then girlfriend we were standing at the entrance to this really nice mall, and has the purse. Again, motorcycle, second guy in the back just kind of rips the purse off, and off he goes. And so a lesson that if you're in a lot of places, you don't want to be carrying a ton of cash around you. I learned, by the way, in the United States, I always have a wallet in the front pocket. It's the New York technique. People from New York are you got to put your wallet in the front pocket. And so I've always done that. And so, you can feel it's there, and no one's just going to pickpocketing it from you. But that was an issue that, you don't carry a lot of cash in your purse in some of these places. And so I had a friend who had the same thing happen to him in Cambodia, just being really flagrant, counting his money, walking down the street. A guy on a motorcycle just came by and took $500 out of his hand. Yeah, just don't be walking around I hum-de-hum-de-hum. That was pretty stupid, but that wasn't me. So that doesn't make the list. The only other issue really, and I'm not talking about you hired a lawyer and he didn't do the job. That's not a crime. I'm talking about actual criminal activity. The last thing was not that long ago. I'm walking around in my neighborhood, kind of at the fringe of my neighborhood in Bogota, and I'm kind of in the same kind of flagrant way, like on the phone. People say in Bogota and parts of Latin America, it's like if you're going to walk around, don't always be like, don't be in your phone. Like again, don't be showing like money, don't be showing that kind of stuff. And so I had a guy who came on a motorcycle and actually had his hand on the phone, like literally, I was like, our hands touched. And I don't know, like why he couldn't pull it off, but he just kind of like let go of the phone, kept driving, turned around, like realized I wasn't like chasing after him with a machete. And I realized, all right, I should probably listen to people, like not use the phone. So obviously, when I go to Latin America, I'm like, hey, it is not statistically as safe. Now, if you walk around Tbilisi, Georgia, if you walk around Belgrade, Serbia, if you walk around Dubai, if you walk around in Montenegro, if you walk around a lot of other places that are in those kind of places, that type of place, you're going to probably have zero issues. I mean, I've literally left $1,000 in change on a table in a restaurant in Tbilisi. They tracked me down, and everyone in Georgia that I've talked to has some kind of story like that. Guy left a $5,000 camera in a taxi, and the guy like came back to his house the next day and like was knocking on doors trying to figure out where he lived to return this expensive camera. So there's plenty of places that are good, and listen, you can find that anywhere. But for me, the places that you often think are unsafe are the places that have a lot of safety. And so, again, Latin America is a bit more adventurous. I think that a lot of places in Western Europe, I mean, you always hear about anywhere where there's lots of tourists, you have people who pick on tourists. And so I can tell you I was in, I think, Barcelona once, and I had something where like I dropped 50 euros on the ground, the woman like tried to take it and give it back, and some weird kind of like scam. Didn't actually lose the money. But the point is, in all these years, okay, don't go to Managua, Nicaragua. Don't go to a lot of places in Central America. Don't go to Johannesburg, South Africa, by the way. Never actually had anything happen to me there, but that's a pretty sketchy place as well. And so if you take a few basic precautions in the more aggressive places, and if you just live your life in everywhere else, I think you'll be fine. It happens to people everywhere. And that is the story of my run-ins with crime around the world, and quite frankly hasn't deterred me at all.